many katakari.
Hello and a very good morning. It just past 8 this Monday morning and we are back again with all the news on Breakfast News. I am Nancy Kohli and over the next 1 hour we'll get you news from across the nation, world, business and sports updates as well. But first a look at the headlines. Prime Minister Modi to address the ongoing 14th Conference of the Parties of United Nations Convention to combat desertification being held at Greater Noida in Uttar Pradesh. This conference is being held at a time when India has assumed the COP presidency for 2 years. Prime Minister Modi addresses a massive rally in Rohtak in Haryana, says the first 100 days of the NDA government's second term has been of development, trust and big changes in the country. He also inaugurates and lays the foundation stone of various development projects. President Ramnath Kovind embarks on a three-nation visit to Iceland, Switzerland and Slovenia. The visit aims to boost bilateral relations with these nations. In international news, US says it hopes to get back to denuclearization talks with North Korea in the coming days. North Korea fired a series of short-range missiles in the recent weeks in protest against the US-South Korea joint military exercises, complicating the reopening of the talks. In sports news, in the US Open men's singles final, Spain's Rafael Nadal wins his fourth US Open title and the 19th major championship with a 7-5, 6-3, 5-7, 4-6, 6-4 win over Russia's Daniil Medvedev after 4 hours and 50-minute long match. And Australia beat England by 185 runs in the fourth test at the Old Trafford, retains the Ashes on English soil for the first time since 2001. The Aussies take an unassailable 2-1 lead in the series with one match left to play. And our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today address the ongoing 14th Conference of the Parties to United Nations Convention to combat desertification being held in Greater Noida, Uttar Pradesh. This conference is being held at a time when India has assumed the COP presidency for 2 years. India has had the honor to host the COP of all the three Rio conventions on climate change, biodiversity and land. Now, Prime Minister Modi's address is important keeping in mind the lead India is taking on the World Fora on the environment conservation and the protection of biodiversity.
United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification's 14th Conference of Parties is underway at Greater Noida near New Delhi. The conference is brainstorming over the issue of desertification across the globe. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will preside over the opening ceremony of the high-level segment on Monday.
The opening session of the high-level segment on 9th September, as I told you, is to be inaugurated by our Prime Minister, and he would be addressing the August gathering constituting Deputy Secretary General United Nations, Executive Secretary UNCCD, President of the COP and all others dignitaries and all ministers also who will join on 8th.
The high-level segment will have discussions on land, climate and renewable energy, rural and urban communities and fostering a global movement for ecosystem restoration.
This COP, because it does mean something, it should be taking our results out of this, promises of the next actions that we will take. And I hope from this conference, as we open it with Prime Minister Modi, that we will take our actions to New York and from New York back to our countries. And so we have this decade of action where we challenge ourselves to reach every one of those goals by 2030.
The conference, which began on 2nd of September, had major sessions on issues like soil organic carbon, which is a key motivation for land restoration, achieving land degradation neutrality and preparing a favorable environment for it, understanding economics of land degradation, drought and the measures that can be taken up to anticipate water needs better, migration due to land degradation, sand and dust storms and urbanization in developed countries. India is actively building a bridge between climate, land and biodiversity. So all eyes are now on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address at the 14th Conference of Parties of the UNCCD. In the sessions till now, there have been scientists, organizations and several countries sharing their experiences and expertise in the sector of land degradation and desertification. The Prime Minister's visit is also very important in the view of that it will open a very important segment of the conference, the high-level segment. It is also very important in the view of how India will put itself and lead itself on the matter, on the global concern of desertification and land degradation. With camera person AK, this is Meghna Dev, DD News, Greater Noida.
And let's now go across to our correspondent Arun Sharma, who is joining us from Greater Noida this morning. Arun, good morning. Prime Minister Modi's address today there is going to be very important. He's going to be presiding over the opening ceremony of the high-level segment, and all eyes will clearly be on the Delhi declaration, of the COP14. Any major announcements that we can hear from Prime Minister Modi today?
Well, that's very much likely as far as some major announcements are concerned from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, in the next 2 hours, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing this high-level session. And as we know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always taken a leadership role as far as environment concerns are concerned. Now, be it COP21, which was held in Paris, or be it taking a leadership role as far as the International Solar Alliance is concerned in order to combat the climate change. Now, as far as the desertification is concerned or land degradation is concerned, again, when in the evening time when the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar, he comes out with major highlights and what declaration has been adopted, he will be announcing that part in the evening. But yes, some major announcements are really be expected as far as the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is concerned. We also know this fact that as far as environment is concerned, Prime Minister has raised several issues. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given several vision on the multilateral forums and also on international forums as well. So now when he'll be addressing close to the members of 192 countries, whereby members, delegations, scientists have come from close to 192 countries, he is likely to give a major vision. And what will be India's role as far as combating desertification is concerned, that is very much likely on the cards, Nancy.
Yes, absolutely. And talking about India's role, Arun, that's going to be very important after assuming the presidency of COP for the next 2 years. And of course, through ever since it began on the 2nd September, of course, discussions, deliberations have been underway as far as desertification and degradation is concerned, boosting also land fertility. Just take us through the deliberations that have been taking place, ever since the COP began, and the way forward from here on, and India playing a very critical role here.
That's right. India is playing a very critical role because India is a developing country, and being a developing country, India is playing a role of just like equal to developed countries like US and other major developed countries. So now they can be, I can just divide your question to two parts. Now, what has happened right from 2nd September until today? Now, various scientists, various NGOs, various leaders from close to 192 countries have gathered here, and they're doing manthan as of now. That means they are talking on various aspects as to which country has what strength as far as the degradation is concerned, which country is having weaknesses as far as the land degradation is concerned, and what can the various countries or primarily the COP countries can do as far as combating desertification or land degradation is concerned. Because we know this fact, Nancy, that globally the global GDP is suffering a loss of close to 10% as far as the GDP is concerned because of the land deterioration. And if in case there is land degradation which is taking place, it is very much likely that the output, the global output as far as the food production is concerned can also go down. So that's the basic idea as to how can the land degradation be stopped going forward, and what major steps, which best practices as far as the science field is concerned can be adopted so that the arrest of land degradation can take place. So that's the basic idea.
Sure.
Now, three major things happen when land degradation is increasing. Number one, the health deteriorates. Second, the food output decreases, and third, the climate change, that is primarily being compromised. So the idea is to control climate change, to increase the food output so that more and more soil is used and desertification is stopped. And third is that the health is, the people are more healthy where the land is not desertified. That means the people are not migrating because of desertification, and GDP increases if in case desertification is controlled. More output can be garnered as far as if we try to control the desertification. So these are some of the major highlights, that can be discussed, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi can also give his vision during his speech when he addresses this high-level conference in 2 hours from now, Nancy.
Right, okay. And talking about today's engagements, Arun, of course, today Prime Minister Modi is going to be presiding the opening ceremony of the high-level segment. That's a very important aspect, a very important part of the COP14. But apart from that, what more to follow throughout the day today?
Well, today's entire day can be divided into 2 parts. Number one, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing this high-level conference today. We know this fact on various multilateral forum. He has addressed and given vision as far as the environment and climate change is concerned. And he's also given, as far as Davos is concerned, when he went to Davos, over there also he addressed and gave a vision as far as how to control climate change. So yes, in the first part of the today's session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing. That's an important part. But last but not the least, in the evening time, that means after 3 o'clock, the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar will be coming out with the declaration. And what declaration has been adopted by the COP countries and primarily all the member countries who are participating in the COP14? What has been the major highlights? What declaration has been adopted? That will be, that will be unveiled in the evening time. So that will be something which is worth watching, because how India is taking a lead role as far as combating climate change, how India is taking a lead role as far as combating desertification. We should not forget this fact, Nancy, that as far as this globe is concerned, 2/3 part is water, 1/3 part is land, and out of this 1/3 part, majority of the portion, that means you can say that close to 30 to 40% of the portion is desertified. That means desertification is taking place rapidly, and if in case we do not combat or if in case we do not control desertification now, that in that case, the global output as far as the food production is concerned, that can decrease. And as of now, with the growing population globally, it is very much important that desertification is stopped so that people are healthy, food production can be increased, and of course climate change can also be combated.
All right, Arun Sharma, thanks for those inputs. We'll of course keep coming back to you, and also of course when Prime Minister Modi addresses the COP14 there, that takes place at 10:30 this morning, but our special programming on the COP14 begins at 10 this morning for the entire continuous coverage on that. Moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone for a mega food park in Rohtak in Haryana on Sunday. Besides that, Prime Minister Modi also laid the foundation stones for several other projects. Addressing the rally, Prime Minister Modi said that the first 100 days of the NDA government's second term has been of development, trust and big changes in the country.
ये 100 दिन विकास के रहे हैं, विश्वास के रहे हैं, देश में बड़े-बड़े परिवर्तन के रहे हैं। ये 100 दिन निर्णय के रहे हैं, निष्ठा के रहे हैं, नेक नियत के भी रहे हैं। ये 100 दिन जन संकल्प के रहे हैं, जन सिद्धियों के रहे हैं, जनहित में सुधार के रहे हैं।
It has been 100 days since Modi government 2.0 took charge following the massive victory in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Prime Minister Modi, who was in Haryana, made it clear that this caravan of development will only get bigger and better. Addressing the people at Vijay Sankalp rally in Rohtak, PM highlighted the various achievements of his government with a special emphasis on parliamentary session and crucial bills being passed.
इन 100 दिनों में संसद के सत्र में जितने बिल पास हुए हैं, जितना काम हुआ है, उतना किसी भी सत्र में पिछले 60 साल में नहीं हुआ है। बहुत देर रात तक बैठकर सांसद सदस्यों ने चर्चाएं की, विचार विमर्श किया, बहस की, बात किया, विवाद किया। संसद में रिकॉर्ड कार्यों के लिए मैं सभी दलों को धन्यवाद देता हूं।
Thanking the people for placing their trust and faith in the government, Prime Minister Modi said that it is because of the people that his government was able to bring such major changes in the society. Addressing the recent scrutiny over the economic reforms, Prime Minister assured that the measures taken by his government will yield positive results.
अर्थव्यवस्था को सशक्त बनाने के लिए अलग अलग सेक्टर्स को मदद करने का रोड मैप रखा गया है। देश में बैंकिंग व्यवस्था को मजबूत करने के लिए ऐतिहासिक फैसले भी लिए गए हैं। यह भी शुरुआत है जिसका निश्चित लाभ आने वाले समय में मिलेगा।
Prime Minister Modi inaugurated multiple development projects for the state. PM laid foundation stones for several projects including a medical college for women in Gurugram and a mega food park at Rohtak. The food park will provide employment to close to 7,000 people and enhance the food processing industry. Exuding confidence that the BJP will return to power in Haryana after October elections, he said that in the last 5 years, Manohar Lal government effectively fought against corruption and nepotism.
बीते 5 वर्षों में हरियाणा में सरकारी नौकरियों में बंदर बांट की एक गलत परंपरा को खत्म किया गया है। शिक्षकों के नाम पर ट्रांसफर पोस्टिंग के खेल को बंद करने का सफल प्रयास किया गया है। हरियाणा में किसानों की जमीन पर भ्रष्टाचार का जो खेल चलता था वो भी बंद हो गया है।
Prime Minister Modi also hailed Haryana government over the improvement in sex ratio as well as increasing number of girls attending higher education. The rally also marked the culmination of Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal's Jan Ashirwad Yatra. Haryana is slated to go for assembly elections in October. With Ajay Bikram Singh, DD News.
And while addressing that rally in Haryana, Prime Minister Modi said that India will never ever forget the morning of 7th September. The Prime Minister said it was on that day that the country saw the true essence of the ISRO spirit.
एक घटना ने पूरे देश को 100 सेकंड के अंदर जगा दिया। एक घटना ने 100 सेकंड के अंदर पूरे हिंदुस्तान को जोड़ दिया। एक ऐसा स्पिरिट, और मैं कहूंगा जैसे स्पोर्ट्समैन स्पिरिट की बात करते हैं, मैं कहूंगा अब हिंदुस्तान में इसरो स्पिरिट है, इसरो स्पिरिट है। अब देश नकारात्मकता को स्वीकार करने को तैयार नहीं है। सफलता असफलता के मायने 100 सेकंड के भीतर देश ने बदल दिए हैं।
And on the completion of 100 days of the second term of the Modi government, the Union Minister Prakash Javadekar in fact spoke about the achievements of the government. He said that the decisions taken by the government in its first 100 days have helped empower people, brought in more inclusiveness and also transparency.
NDA government under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken many historic and path-breaking initiatives in the first 100 days of its second term. No other government in the past has taken so many people-friendly decisions in its first 100 days in power. Addressing a press conference in New Delhi, the Minister for Information and Broadcasting Prakash Javadekar said the decisions taken by the government in its first 100 days have helped empower people, brought in more inclusiveness and transparency.
तेजी से देश हित के निर्णय, तैयारी से जबरदस्त निर्णय, तरक्की के बहुत महत्वपूर्ण निर्णय, सामाजिक न्याय के निर्णय और सहृदयता का परिचय देने वाले अनेक निर्णय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हुआ।
The Information and Broadcasting Minister said that Jammu and Kashmir had been isolated for 70 years and no benefits were provided under any center-funded schemes. After the abrogation of Article 370, these schemes will be implemented in Jammu and Kashmir and people will be benefited.
जम्मू कश्मीर पिछले 70 साल से जो अलग थलग हुआ था, वहाँ के लोगों को फायदे नहीं मिल रहे थे, वो योजनाओं के फायदा अब भारत के संविधान पूरी लागू है, भारत के सभी कानून इसीलिए लागू है। इससे कश्मीर में विकास भी तेजी से होगा और रोजगार भी बढ़ेगा।
Union Minister said that the government ensured social justice, taking several major steps, including enacting laws banning instant triple talaq.
ट्रिपल तलाक से पीड़ित मुस्लिम महिलाओं को सामाजिक न्याय की गुहार बहुत सालों से थी। वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के कारण आज तक उनको उनका अधिकार नहीं मिला, आज अभी मिला है।
The Union Minister said the decisions are aimed at empowering the farmers, poor, labourers, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. The minister said several corrupt officials were weeded out as a boost to transparency. He said there is no place for corruption in the country. He exuded firm belief that India will become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. The minister said the schemes like Housing for All, Jal Jeevan Mission, Ayushman Bharat and doubling farmers' income and Ujjwala Yojana are some of the key steps taken by the government. He said Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme has been extended to all the 6.37 crore farmers. With inputs from Kumar Alok, Bureau Report, DD News.
President Ramnath Kovind has embarked on a 9-day official visit to Iceland, Switzerland and Slovenia to enhance India's political and economic ties with the 3 European countries. President Kovind will first visit Iceland and hold talks with the Iceland President and the Prime Minister there. The President's next stop will be Switzerland from 11th to 15th of this month, where he will meet the President and the members of the Swiss cabinet. On the final leg of his visit, President Kovind will visit Slovenia on the 15th of this month. During his visit there, the President will hold extensive discussions with the Slovenian President and the Prime Minister. President Kovind will also participate in a business forum event and an Indian community reception. And news now from back home, BJP National President and the Union Home Minister Amit Shah will offer prayers at the Ma Kamakhya Devi Temple in Guwahati today, following which he will also attend the 68th plenary of the North Eastern Council. Yesterday, after inaugurating the session, Amit Shah, who is also the chairman of the NEC, had said that no illegal migrant will be allowed to stay in the country and that the NRC exercise in Assam was completed in a time-bound manner. The governors and the chief ministers of the member states are also participating in the 2-day session. Later on in the day, the minister will also attend the 4th convocation of the Northeast Democratic Alliance.
नॉर्थ ईस्ट जो एक जमाना में आजादी के पहले एक क्षेत्र के रूप में देश में सबसे बड़ा जीडीपी कंट्रीब्यूटर था, वो स्थिति पूर्ववत लाने के लिए भी आज हमने लक्ष्य तय करने चाहिए। देश के विकास की अगुवाई, देश के विकास की लीडरशिप नॉर्थ ईस्ट के पास होनी चाहिए। इसलिए ही हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नॉर्थ ईस्ट को न्यू इंजन ऑफ इंडिया कहते हैं। इंडिया के ग्रोथ का नया इंजन नॉर्थ ईस्ट बनना चाहिए। इस दृष्टि से आज हमने आगे बढ़ना चाहिए।
The Home Minister also said that the Article 371 of the Constitution that provides special provisions for northeastern and specific parts of a few other states will not be tampered with.
धारा 370 संविधान सभा ने टेम्पररी प्रोविजन करके रखा था, अस्थायी उपबंध था, और धारा 371 टेम्पररी प्रोविजन नहीं है, विशेष प्रोविजन है, स्पेशल प्रोविजन है। दोनों के बीच में मूलभूत अंतर है। और मैं स्पष्ट करना देना चाहता हूं, नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार 371 और 371A to J का संपूर्ण सम्मान करती है। इसके साथ कोई छेड़खानी करने का कोई सवाल नहीं।
In news now from Jammu and Kashmir, the situation has remained peaceful across the Kashmir Valley. Daytime restrictions have been eased in 91% of the valley, while all of Jammu and Ladakh regions remain free from any daytime restrictions. Now, some remaining restrictions are being reviewed continuously and also being eased by the local administration based on the ground situation. The mobile facility has been restored in all the districts of Jammu and Ladakh division and in Kupwara district of Kashmir, while the essential supplies including 24/7 electricity, water supply and sanitation have also been ensured. The home delivery of the LPG cylinders has also begun. More than 60,000 LPG cylinders have been distributed in Srinagar alone. The hospitals and medical facilities are also functioning normally. 7 lakh people have visited different district hospitals in the outpatient departments in the month of August alone, while all the 376 notified drugs are available at the government shops and also the private retailers. The transportation of the fruit produce was increasing with 300 trucks plying on a daily basis, adding that over 1.5 lakh metric tons of the fruit produce has been sent to various sale points outside the valley. The National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India has pledged over $800 million for the apple procurement in the valley to benefit over 7 lakh apple farmers of J&K. Moving on now, the three-day India-China Strategic Economic Dialogue will begin in New Delhi to discuss various issues including infrastructure, energy and pharmaceuticals. The dialogue will comprise roundtable meetings of the joint working groups on infrastructure, energy, high-tech, resource conservation, pharmaceuticals and policy coordination. The three-day dialogue will be chaired by Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar, and the Chinese side will be led by the Chairman, National Development and Reforms Commission. Set up between the erstwhile Planning Commission and the NDRC, China, during the visit of the Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao to India in December 2019, the dialogue has since then served as an effective mechanism for enhancing bilateral practical cooperation. Okay, let's now go across to our correspondent Abhishek Jha, who is in fact keeping a track of developments on that front. Abhishek, good morning. India will be hosting the 6th India-China Strategic Economic Dialogue, and of course this is going to be important because this serves as an effective mechanism for the bilateral practical cooperation as well and collaboration in on a wide range of areas.
Nancy, it has been almost 8 years since the Strategic Economic Development Dialogue was established between India and China. Last time it was held in Beijing, and this time it's being held in Delhi. And it is a very important meeting, especially at the time when we are also looking forward to Chinese Premier's visit next month in India, probably. But on those lines, what could be the economic implications of India-China relationships in the days to come could be given an underlining. It could be discussed at this meeting where the Indian side is being represented by India as the top economic thinking tank, Niti Aayog's chairman. And of course, while both sides will be meeting and discussing the issues of important economic aspects, especially in infrastructure, we know that China has been quite extensively going on infrastructure development in China. And in India also there are main projects where Chinese investment and Chinese experts are participating. And also there are sectors like pharmaceuticals where India is taking a lead, and China is asking for collaboration in more and more Indian companies in China. And there are agricultural sector where Chinese market is opening up. And also there are issues that India have been asking Chinese side to open up their market so that more and more investment and market access to China could happen for Indian manufacturers. So these are the major issues of economic collaboration that Indian side and Chinese side have been, deliberating upon in the past also. So this meeting also would be taking those aspects forward. And before the visit of Chinese Premier, this is especially a very important economic meeting.
Okay. All right, Abhishek, thanks for joining us and sharing all those inputs. Thanks very much. And moving on now, the former Union Minister Kalraj Mishra will today take oath as the new governor of Rajasthan. Mishra, the BJP leader and veteran politician, will succeed the former Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Kalyan Singh, who recently completed his 5-year tenure as a Rajasthan governor. And in news now from around the world, thousands of demonstrators in Hong Kong urged US President Donald Trump for help during a peaceful march to the US consulate on Sunday. Protesters, many of them clad in black shirts and wearing masks, waved American flags and carried posters that read President Trump, please liberate Hong Kong, as they marched to the US consulate nearby. The protesters urged Washington to pass a bill known as the Hong Kong Democratic and Human Rights Act to support their cause. Meanwhile, Hong Kong police fired tear gas to disperse protesters in the upmarket Causeway Bay shopping district. Hong Kong has been rocked by 3 months of unrest sparked by a proposed law that would have allowed criminal suspects to be sent to mainland China for trial. The protests have continued despite Hong Kong's leadership finally meeting one of the protesters' key demands. The United States hopes to get back to denuclearization talks with North Korea in the coming days or weeks. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that negotiations are aimed at dismantling Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs. In June, the U.S. President Donald Trump and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had agreed to reopen the working-level talks when they met at the border between North Korea and South Korea. North Korea has fired a series of short-range missiles in recent weeks in protest against the U.S.-South Korea joint military exercises and the adoption of new weapons, complicating the reopening of the talks. Pompeo said that despite those short-range tests, which he called disappointing, Kim has not violated the commitments he made to Donald Trump, and the U.S. goal remains a verified, denuclearized North Korea. In some more news, the Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has urged the Taliban to end violence and talk directly to his government after U.S. President Donald Trump announced cancelling peace talks with the Taliban. The announcement came after Taliban claimed responsibility for a Kabul attack last week that killed a U.S. soldier and 11 other people. Meanwhile, the Taliban has said that the Americans have the most to lose from cancelling peace negotiations that sought to end the 18-year war in Afghanistan. The U.S. diplomats have been talking with the Taliban representatives for months, seeking to agree to a plan to withdraw thousands of American troops in the exchange for security guarantees by the Taliban. Sudan swore its first cabinet yesterday since the removal of the former president Omar al-Bashir in April following nationwide protests against his rule. The 18-member cabinet led by Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, which includes 4 women, took the oath at the presidential palace in Khartoum. The lineup was formed after Sudan last month sworn in a sovereign council that was a joint civilian-military ruling body that aimed to oversee the transition. The cabinet is expected to steer the daily affairs of the country during a transition period of 39 months until the general elections. The agreement capped months of negotiations that were accompanied by a deadly crackdown by security forces. The agreement was signed following pressure from the U.S. and its Arab allies amid growing concerns over the political crisis that could possibly ignite a civil war. At least 29 people were killed in 2 attacks in northern Burkina Faso on Sunday. One vehicle transporting people and goods rode over an improvised explosive device in the Barcelogoho area, leaving at least 15 passengers killed. Meanwhile, around 50 kilometers away, 14 people were killed when food vans traveling in a convoy were attacked. Burkina Faso has been struggling with an Islamist militant revolt since 2015. Earlier this month, an attack on a military base in northern Burkina Faso killed 24 in an unprecedented blow. And with that, let's now move on to our next segment, the finance world, with my colleague Aanchal.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. And today, the first trading day session, that's Monday. Let's have a look at those news which are making headlines in the world of business. The fundamentals of the Indian economy are strong and there is no panic situation in the country. Union Minister Prakash Javadekar said sometimes a slowdown is a cyclical process and such a patch will not hurt the country's progress rate. India's last year has received a record FDI more than China. Domestic economy is on a strong footing and many new industries are coming up because of the good governance model and the rules which have been changed for foreign investment. There will be more and more foreign investment and more domestic demand is growing up. While asserting hefty fines for traffic rule violations that are aimed at curbing road accidents, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari said intelligent traffic system does not discriminate between violators of law, whether it is a central minister, chief minister, bureaucrat or a journalist. There should be no fear for hefty challans if someone is abiding by the law. Gadkari also said stringent rules were much needed as people had taken traffic laws very lightly and there was neither fear nor respect for such laws. The amalgamation of 10 public sector banks into 4 has nearly ended the consolidation process and created almost the right number of banks to cater to the needs of the aspirational New India. Finance Secretary Rajiv Kumar said this exercise will create 6 global-sized banks and will bring down the number of nationalized public sector banks to 12 from 27. This is almost the right number of the banks which the country needs. The government on August 30 announced consolidation of 10 large public sector banks into 4. The consolidation will help create strong and globally competitive banks. They would have wider reach, strong lending capacity and better products and technology to serve customers of New India. And that's all we have in this edition of Finance World. Back to Nancy for more other news updates.
Thanks, Anshul, for joining us. Let's now move on, take a look at some sports news now. Well, Rafael Nadal has won his 19th Grand Slam title after holding off Russian Daniil Medvedev's exhilarating fight back in one of the greatest US Open finals. Nadal won 7-5, 6-3, 5-7, 4-6, 6-4 against the 5th seed in New York. Nadal, seeded second, was cruising at 2 sets and a break-up, only for Medvedev to force a decider. But Nadal stopped his momentum to eventually clinch a thrilling victory in 4 hours and 51 minutes. Nadal's victory now moves him within one of Swiss rival Roger Federer's all-time leading tally of Grand Slam victories. And moving on now to cricket, well, Australia retained the Ashes after beating England by 185 runs in the final session of the 4th test at the Old Trafford on Sunday. Josh Hazlewood claimed the winning wicket, trapping Craig Overton LBW as Australia dismissed England's second innings of 197 deep into the evening session to take a 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. Australia's star batter Steve Smith was the player of the match, and as the holder, Australia only needs to draw the series to keep cricket's famous on.
What a change. Oh, big shot, don't think it'll matter. Australia retain the Ashes.
It's been a terrific series to be in the planning.
Get your bit. Get your bit.
And with that, let's now move on to our next segment, the morning print, to get you a glimpse of what the national dailies are carrying this morning. We are beginning first with the news from the Times of India. And yes, this is about that historic day that it was the 7th of September when, of course, Vikram was in fact the lander Vikram was separated from the orbiter, the landing there. And in fact, ISRO now saying orbiter has spotted Vikram lander and signals are elusive and lost and found. How really Vikram was found? The scientists are deciding that the image spotted was that of Vikram. Once the image was taken on Saturday, they had to ascertain if the object that they saw was Vikram indeed. Then based on the latitude and the longitude, they checked the old images from the same site. The old images didn't show any objects, while the new one showed an object, which is how they concluded that it was Vikram indeed. And in fact, ISRO's efforts being commended, complimented by world over, and NASA in fact is now seeking a joint solar system operation. NASA has said it was inspired by Chandrayaan-2 mission and that it was ready to tie up with the ISRO for a joint exploration of the solar system. And in fact, the ISRO source has told this newspaper that a NASA payload on board Vikram could cast light on what happened just before contact with the lander that was lost. Of course, the source said that the laser reflector array on board Vikram was meant to track the lander's location. Okay, let's now move on to some other news, and this is from the Pioneer. This talks about the Home Minister Amit Shah saying that Article 371 to remain intact, but Northeast out of bounds was quarters. The centre will not touch Article 371 of the Indian Constitution that is applicable to the Northeast, and not a single illegal immigrant would be allowed in the region. Of course, he was saying, I'm quoting him here, I have clarified in Parliament that this is not going to happen, and I'm saying it again today in the presence of the 8 chief ministers of the Northeast that both the articles are different, that is 370 and 371, and the centre will not touch Article 371. Moving on now to the Indian Express, and this is talking about Ram Jethmalani, who of course passed away yesterday in the morning. Working to his own brief, the lawyer who held the court for 70 years. In 2015, of course, when the then Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, asked Ram Jethmalani, already a non-Janarian then, when he planned to retire. In fact, Ram Jethmalani went on to say, why is my lord asking When will I die? In fact, he retorted as of course the courtroom erupted in laughter. But the veteran lawyer and former Union Minister Amjad Milani, a lawyer with the longest and perhaps the most remarkable career in the country, passed away on Sunday morning. He was 95 and just 2 years into retirement from a practice going back to before partition. He also represented the non-conformist, represented a long list of clients as well. Okay, moving on now towards the end of the news, and this is of course from sports. The US Open, the 19-year-old Canadian winning the US Open. Serena falls short of the Grand Slam record. Serena Williams of the US and Bianca of Canada posing for photos together after of course Bianca won the women's singles final of the US Open in New York on Saturday. With that, it's a wrap on the morning print for now. Let's move on now to our next segment, the history of the day, taking a look back at the significance of this day.
It was on this day in 1850, Bharatendu Harishchandra, known as father of modern Hindi literature as well as Hindi theatre, was born in Banaras. On this day in 1915, Jatindranath Mukherjee, also known as Bagha Jatin, and his companions fought a battle with British police in Kapadipada near Balasore on the banks of Buri Balang River in Orissa. It was on this day in 2012, Varghese Kurian, father of the White Revolution, passed away in Nadiad, Gujarat. Kurian was 28 when he came to Anand, Gujarat in 1949 and was soon working hard to help a budding cooperative to grow. On this day in 1850, California became the 31st state of the United States, admitted to the Union after tussle with Mexico.
And a look now at the important events for today.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the high-level segment of 14th Conference of Parties to the UN Convention to Combat Desertification in Greater Noida. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to participate in a two-day business and innovation summit India-Singapore, the next phase, along with Minister for Foreign Affairs of Singapore, Vivian Balakrishnan, at Marina Bay Sands Expo and Convention Centre, Singapore. Union Minister of Communications Ravi Shankar Prasad to be the chief guest at the first anniversary celebrations of India Post Payments Bank at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi.
And let's now move on to our health segment, the health story of the day, and today we are focusing on malnutrition in children.
Malnutrition is a major problem that may lead to severe consequences in the long term. Eating junk food and low nutrients in the diet cause malnutrition.
As high as 45% of our children are undernourished. That means they have low body weight for their age. The second variety which we have is stunting. That means for their height, the child has less amount of height as for their age. The third variety, we call it, is wasting. This particular child has less in weight, less in height.
Malnutrition affects the growth and development of the child. It may result in problems like obesity, being underweight, wasting, or stunting in the child. It also may increase the risk of many other health problems.
Child must eat adequate amount of food, and for this what is important is that since his stomach is small, he should not be given only 2 meals or 3 meals as adult take. He should be given about 7 to 8 small frequent diet so that the child's caloric requirement is met. In the poor families, if possible, they can add little amount of oil or fat or ghee to the child's diet so it becomes more caloric dense. If the calories are met, most of the micronutrients, most of the minerals requirement or protein requirement are met.
So next time while serving the delicious food to the child, find out the nutritional value and do check out how nutritious that food is. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
And a good news India story now. Well, there's always a patriarchal division in jobs. However, in the modern world, women are keeping up with men in all the fields. Let's now take a look at this inspiring story from Trivandrum division of Indian Railways. The Pink gang of 16 women look after the garage and the wagon fitness of Vanchinath Express. They have also completed 2.5 years, becoming the pride of the Indian Railways.
Meet this Pink Gang, a group of women who are breaking all stereotypes to make lives better. They are trying to change the notion that some work belong only to women while others only to men. As soon as Vanchinath Express stops at Thiruvananthapuram Central Station, these women just barge in and check all parts of the train. With utmost vigilance, these women check engines, valves and air brakes and rectify faults if any. All these women are Indian Railway employees. There are 16 women in this Pink Gang who are mechanics led by junior engineer Shrikala. They have been looking after fitness of Vanchinath Express garage and wagon for past 2.5 years. The youngest member of the group is Krishnendu, who is 28-year-old, while the eldest is 58-year-old VV Safia. This is first such group working for Indian Railways.
This is a teamwork. After each trip, when the train arrives at the station, we closely check all its parts. It's a hard task, but we ensure that everything is working properly.
Vanchinath is an intercity train between Thiruvananthapuram and Ernakulam. Besides servicing of the train, this group looks after safety aspects too. The train has never witnessed any sort of delay since these women took over the responsibility. Today, not only their hard work has been recognized, but a mindset change has been witnessed among those around. Undoubtedly, with their commitment and dedication, these women have proved that Vanchinath Express is in safe hands completely. We are very proud of this Pink Gang. Rashmi Roja's report for Good News India from Thiruvananthapuram.
And some news now on the weather front. Incessant rain triggered by a low pressure area created a flood-like situation in some parts of Odisha on Sunday, leading to a rise in the water levels in the major rivers in the state. With the water level at the Hirakud Dam rising due to heavy rain in upper catchments of Mahanadi River, 20 of 64 sluice gates were opened to release excess water from the reservoir. While excess water was being discharged through 12 gates at the Hirakud Dam till Saturday, 8 more were opened on Sunday. The water in the Mahanadi and some other rivers like Brahmani and Baitarani rose considerably as heavy rain pounded districts such as Sambalpur, Angul, Jharsuguda, Kionjar, Bolangir, Subranapur and Koraput. And also heavy rains in Maharashtra's Gadchiroli district since the last 5 days have inundated parts of Bhamragarh Tehsil with 120 villages under it losing contact with the district administration. More than 500 people have been shifted to safer places so far. Bhamragarh is located on the right banks of a confluence of Indravati River, a tributary of the Godavari River, the Pearl Kota and the Pamal Gautami in the East Maharashtra bordering Chhattisgarh and Telangana. No casualties have so far been reported as yet, though 2 persons are missing from Armori and Chamroshi tehsils. And a look now at the weather report at the rest of the country. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Breakfast News. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll see you then. But before we go today, we're leaving you with something very exciting. Well, in fact, they say that twirling the ring all around the body helps to keep your body fit. And before we end the show here, we're leaving you with the glimpses of 3 children from Chennai attempting a world record in the hula hoops, twirling around the neck and hand. Here's how they're doing it. Take a look. We wish you a great day ahead. Thanks for being with us.